Hello everyone and welcome to the Dill Pickle Movie Network. I am Dylan Randazzo and I'm excited to be talking award season today. In 2 days, we will get Oscar nominations. It'll be pretty early for you Pacific Coast friends. It'll be 5 a.m. Pacific time, but it'll be 8 a.m. here, which is, it's also pretty early in the morning. This is always an early in the morning, up and at 'em type of event. You wake up, you get your coffee, you run downstairs and you turn on the Oscar nominations, and I will be sharing my reaction because this is one of the most unpredictable years. Sure, we have our frontrunners in some categories, but of course, because this year has been so wonky and so crazy with COVID and with theaters not being open, some movies going directly to streaming, some movies not going to streaming at all, it's really hard to say what the Academy is really going to go for. We've seen a bunch of Guild Award nominations come out. Some Guild Awards have happened. Critics' Choice happened. Golden Globes happened. So we do have a little bit of an indication on what could get nominated in some categories, but there really is no one award show that can predict the Oscars. The Oscars are their own beast. It's a gazillion times more people voting than people voting in these smaller guild awards. So, while these predictions I feel confident about, I am not necessarily 100% on. Obviously, there are going to be shocks, there are going to be surprises, there are going to be snubs. Some of these names that I'm going to say, oh, it's a sure thing, are not going to be a sure thing, and they're not going to show up on nomination morning, which is a little frightening for some names, because there are some people I really, really want to get nominated, and some people I would honestly be surprised, but pleasantly surprised, seeing get nominated too. So, it's a very big whirlwind of chaos on Monday morning, but we are here a few days early to break down my predictions as for who I think will get nominated for each award. Now, these are not my predictions for who will win. These are not my choices, my personal favorites to win. This is just who I think will get nominated for the Oscars. If you want to know who I would have nominated for the Oscars, I will be bringing you my own Pickle Awards in just a few weeks. So you will get to hear my end of the year assessment on what I think the nominees should have been, and I will give you my winners, but this is strictly about the Oscars and what is going to happen on Monday morning. So we're going to start off with 3 categories that are very, very, very tough to predict because we have had no precursors about these awards so far, and those are the short film categories. Now, short films, I'm going to kind of breeze through them just because I haven't seen a lot of them. So first off, for Best Live Action Short, I am predicting, and these are all listed in order of how confident I am that they will get nominated versus how unconfident I am. And at the bottom, I have the movies that I think just missed the cut. They were my tough cuts, not because I personally found it tough to cut them, but just because they came so close to cracking my predictions, but I just don't think they'll get it there in the end. So for Best Live Action Short, we have The Human Voice, The Letter Room, Two Distant Strangers, The Present, and Dahlia. I don't know much about any of these movies except for The Human Voice, which stars Tilda Swinton, and I think when you have a big movie star in a short film, that already gives it a little bit of gravity, a little bit of weight. So those are my predictions for the nominees for that. For Best Documentary Short, I put A Love Song for Latasha, Abortion Helpline, This Is Lisa, Hysterical Girl, Colette, and A Concerto is a Conversation. Again, I do not know any of these films. I have not seen them, but I just went based on their synopsises and what other people around me are saying about those movies. Best Animated Short, I actually have seen a few of these. My predictions, If Anything Happens, I Love You, which is on Netflix right now. You can check it out. Out and Burrow, which are on Disney Plus, you can go check out. Opera, and The Snail and the Whale. That last one, I have no idea if it's even a front runner to be nominated, but it sounded like a fun name that would be fun to read on nomination morning. The other 4, though, I feel really confident about. I just think these are the ones that are being seen the most by most people. These are the ones that have really important messages to say. I do recommend those first 3. I did see those first 3, and I do recommend them. Moving on now to the Music Awards. There are 2 awards for music, the first one being Best Original Song. Here, I think Speak Now from One Out Miami and Low C from The Life Ahead are the 2 locks. Speak Now just won the Critics' Choice, Low C just won the Globe. Fight for You and Hear My Voice are 2 songs that I also think have been getting a lot of nominations. I could definitely see them getting the Oscar nomination. And then for the 5th slot, I kind of made it a little bit of a wild card, and I put Husavik from Eurovision Song Contest, The Story of Fire Saga. Now, the thing is, this movie was not necessarily one of my favorite movies of last year, but I do think the music itself was so memorable that I think to have this in the conversation, I think it would be an interesting choice for the Academy. Another interesting choice, which you see in my snubs, is Wuhan Flu from Borat subsequent movie film. If they nominate Wuhan Flu, that'll be definitely the most unconventional nomination this category has ever seen since the South Park movie got nominated for Blame Canada. But I would not blame the Academy for choosing that song because I think it would be a really interesting performance if Sacha Baron Cohen got up there and sang Wuhan Flu. For Best Original Score, I'm predicting Soul and Mank, both scores by Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross, and John Batiste was also the third composer for Soul. I also predicted The Midnight Sky, News of the World, and Minari. Now, this is a tough category because I think Tenet could sneak in. I think it has a good score, but the problem is, I will talk about it a little later, I don't think Tenet is going to perform as well as people think in this awards ceremony. So Tenet, I left off. The little things I have there, just in case Jared Leto as a nomination for Best Supporting Actor is a real thing and people are actually really, really liking this movie, I could see the little things getting in there, but it's very slim. And then Blizzard of Souls. Whenever you see a short list and a movie comes up there that you've never heard of, it's safe to say that they're on there for a reason, and you never know when some weird title you've never heard of will show up, especially in a category like this that is so wide open. Now moving on to the technical awards. First we have Best Sound, and I think, it's in the title. Sound of Metal is my frontrunner right now. I think Mank also has a great shot. News of the World, Greyhound, Trial of the Chicago 7. The Trial of the Chicago 7 was not on my radar at first, but we saw with the Cinema Audio Society, with their nominations, that they nominated Trial of the Chicago 7, and you know what they didn't nominate? Tenet. That's right, I just don't think Tenet is going to perform as well as we think. Tenet is on my side list, and you gotta think, a lot of people when they saw it in the theater didn't like the sound of Tenet. They thought it was almost too loud, and it masked a lot of the dialogue. Whether that was intentional or not, I'm not sure, but I don't think Tenet will get in here. Ma Rainey and Soul are on the backup, just because they are movies about music, and whenever you have a movie about music, sometimes the sound is a big part of it. Bohemian Rhapsody was this case, so I could see Ma Rainey or Soul getting in, but those are the five I'm going to predict. For Best Makeup and Hairstyling, I predicted Ma Rainey's Black Bottom, Mank, Hillbilly Elegy, Birds of Prey, and Pinocchio. Now again, this is one of those cases, like I said, with Blizzards of Souls. Pinocchio showed up on the shortlist, and I had not heard of this movie, this version of Pinocchio, but the fact that it made it on the shortlist for makeup means that it's there for a reason, and sometimes we see some weird movies popping up. That's why I have Jingle Jangle in the backups, in the tough cuts, because Pinocchio is just one of those random names that popped up on the shortlist, and I was like, oh, okay, and then I looked at the pictures, and I'm like, oh, this makes sense, so I did go with that as the fifth slot. I think Emma would be a shortcut. It's all about the hair, not as much the makeup. Little Things, I think, again, if they are really on that Jared Leto train, maybe the Little Things will get in score, maybe they'll get in makeup, but I do think it's safe to say that these five are my frontrunners for Best Makeup and Hairstyling. Next, we have Best Production Design, and I think the nominees here will be Mank, News of the World, Ma Rainey's Black Bottom, Tenet, and Emma. Now here I am nominating Tenet because I just think the set pieces are so crucial and important to that film, and I think if it does get snubbed in some categories like score, like sound, I still think it'll show up in this category, production design. This is one of my surest bets for Tenet, along with another category I'll talk about in a little bit. I think the top three are all pretty safe. Ma Rainey's Black Bottom, it's got some great indoor set pieces. News of the World, obviously a big Western. They always eat that up. And Mank is a movie about Hollywood. So, of course, this Hollywood set, everyone's going to fall in love with the production design of that. Emma is my fifth slot. I'm a little worried Emma will miss out. I think Mulan could get in, but the thing is, at the Critics' Choice Awards, the past few years have always predicted the winner of this category, and they didn't even nominate Mulan. So the fact that Mulan didn't even get a Critics' Choice nomination is making me think it might miss out on production design here. It's a snub I'm predicting. I'm not sure if it'll actually happen, so I did go with Emma in that fifth slot. But of course, Midnight Sky is also there. It's a space movie. A lot of people like the space set pieces, so it really could be any of those 8 movies listed, but those are the 5 that I'm going with there. For Best Film Editing, I put Trial of the Chicago 7, Sound of Metal, Nomadland, Mank, and The Father. Again, another snub for Tenet. I don't think Tenet is going to get in here. It is supposedly a lot of people's pick for getting a lot of these technical awards. I don't see it getting in here. I think The Father is interesting because everything is told from Anthony Hopkins' point of view in that film, and a lot of that rests on the editing it so you feel like you're inside this person's mind, which is why I think it'll sneak in there for the 5th slot. I think the top 4 are all pretty solid. Sound of Metal just tied Trial of the Chicago 7 at the Critics' Choice for Best Editing, so I think Sound of Metal is a real contender here, but I think those top 4 are pretty solid. I think The Father gets a 5 slot. If another film's going to get in there, Minari and Promising Young Woman are 2 Best Picture frontrunners that could get in, because as we see a lot of the time, editing also matches up with Best Picture. But I'm pretty safe with those 4, and then The Father is going to be my 5th choice. But Promising Young Woman, Minari, Tenet, they could sneak in there. For Best Costume Design, I put Ma Rainey's Black Bottom, Emma, Mank, Mulan, and News of the World. Now, a lot of these movies are so different. You know, Ma Rainey's Black Bottom has all these really colorful costumes that Viola Davis's character, Ma Rainey, wears. Emma is this period piece costume drama. It's all about the costumes in some scenes, so I really think Emma's going to get in. Mulan, you've got amazing, beautiful, rich, colorful costumes in that. Mank is the traditional Hollywood period piece that they like to nominate, and News of the World is a Western. I think these 5 are honestly a really solid 5. I don't see them deviating too much from those 5. Best cinematography, I have Nomadland, Mank, News of the World, Trial of the Chicago 7, and Minari. Again, another snub for Tenet, and that is because the American Society of Cinematographers didn't nominate Tenet. Tenet relies so much on the visual experience, but then it doesn't get a nomination at the awards specifically made for cinematographers. I'm just feeling like it'll get snubbed. For best visual effects, this is the other category where I did put Tenet at the top, because I think visual effects, Tenet is not going to be a movie you can snub in this category. I think the visual effects are the highlight of that movie and are honestly the strongest of all these movies that are on the shortlist. The shortlist only has 10 of them, so here are 8 of them. 5 of them I predicted, 3 on the side, and poor Bloodshot and Love and Monsters just got left out just because I don't see it happening. Tenet, The Midnight Sky. Midnight Sky is all about space. Everyone loves space movies. They're going to get in for visual effects. Mulan, a lot of good visual effects in the action sequences. I see it happening. The last 2 are pretty out there nominations. Soul is an animated film, and Welcome to Chechnya is a documentary. So, you don't see documentaries and animated films nominated in this category a lot. Now, animated, you did see Nightmare Before Christmas and Kubo and the Two Strings get in there, so it isn't impossible for an animated film to be nominated. And because this year has been so weird, why not go for the weird predictions? I'm predicting Soul. I'm predicting the documentary there. The documentary, if you didn't know, they use something called deep fakes. It's kind of what they did for Luke Skywalker in The Mandalorian. You have a body double in there, but then you have someone else's face on top of it to replicate it. It's a big, complicated process to explain, but I think because they use that deepfake technology, which is becoming more and more seen, especially in this virtual setting where a lot of other movies are using deepfakes. Jimmy Kimmel uses deepfakes in his show sometimes, so I think deepfakes are a big thing, and I think that will take that 5th slot. I could see One and Only Ivan getting in there because, animals that talk, that actually look real. I mean, why not? For Best International Feature, I'm predicting another round: Quo Vadis, Aida, La Llorona, Two of Us, and Collective. The reason I have Collective all the way at number 5 for that in terms of confidence is because I'm also predicting it for documentary, and we've only seen once in history where a documentary is also nominated in Best International Feature, so Collective may not make that top 5, but that's what I'm sticking with for my 5. Speaking of Best Documentary Feature, I think Collective is the surest bet for that, because it is kind of the one of the most buzzed about documentaries of this year, and because it's in a different language, it has that special novelty to it. I think Time and Dick Johnson Is Dead are making a lot of people's top 10 lists for the year, not just in documentary, but in films alone. All In: The Fight for Democracy is another one that I'm putting at number 4, and Welcome to Chechnya I am again putting at number 5 here. I think because it got that visual effects side list nomination, I think it's possible they might nominate it here, and it could get 2 nominations. It was really hard to cut some movies off this list. Boys State is the most notable one, because I think it's a lot of people's frontrunner, but in the past few years, like we saw with Won't You Be My Neighbor, like we saw with a few other documentaries, sometimes the frontrunner doesn't even get nominated, and I think Boys State is one of the frontrunners, and so I was going with that as my bold prediction for who's going to get snubbed, that a lot of people are going to get angry about, but I could see either Time or Dick Johnson Is Dead getting snubbed, and everyone just freaking out about it. I would freak out if Dick Johnson Is Dead didn't get nominated, because I think it's my favorite documentary of all these. Best Animated Feature, this one, if you have to lock in a surefire 5 nominees, this is the one. Soul, Wolfwalkers, Over the Moon, The Croods: A New Age, and Onward. There is no way I predict any other movie getting in here. I did list 3 of them, Shaun the Sheep, Willoughby's, and Trolls World Tour, but I really sincerely don't think any of these 5 are not going to get nominated. The thing is, Onward I have at number 5 just because I don't think they've ever nominated 2 Pixar movies in the same category, but again, this is a weird year. We didn't get all the movies we were supposed to get. Raya and the Last Dragon technically counts for next year because of when it came out, so I am predicting Onward to still get in, but if any of those 5 does get snubbed, I think it might be Onward, but I just can't see it getting snubbed. I think this is your 5. Lock it in. Here's where we're really getting into the nitty-gritty. We're going with Best Director. My predictions: Chloe Zhao for Nomadland, David Fincher for Mank, Aaron Sorkin for Trial of the Chicago 7, Lee Isaac Chung for Minari, and Emerald Fennell for Promising Young Woman. These are the 5 nominees that the Directors Guild nominated, so I'm really, really confident that this will be the Directors' 5. That being said, Regina King has been getting a lot of buzz as the director for One Night in Miami. She could sneak in. Florian Zeller can sneak in if The Father has a bigger showing than we thought. And I did put Thomas Vinterberg, and the reason being, a few years back in 2018, the 2019 Oscars, we saw the director of Cold War get nominated, and Cold War wasn't even up for Best Picture. It was the frontrunner for Best International Feature next to Roma, and they nominated 2 directors from foreign films in that category. And I know Minari is not a foreign international film, but it is a foreign language film to some. So the fact that Lee Isaac Chung and Thomas Vinterberg could both get in this category, I think is possible. I think we could see a repeat like what we saw a few years ago with Cold War. But Thomas Vinterberg still isn't in my 5. I think this is a solid 5. I think Thomas Vinterberg could get in. I don't think it's necessarily likely. Best Adapted Screenplay. Nomadland, The Father, One Night in Miami, Ma Rainey's Black Bottom. That has been my 4 pretty much the past few months. I've been pretty solid about those 4. But here we go. Here's the wild card here. Borat subsequent movie film. Here's the deal. Borat was not on my radar until it got nominated for the WGA, which is the Writers Guild. And it got nominated for PGA for Best Picture, which is a huge deal. If you get nominated for the PGA, that's a big deal. And I'm not necessarily predicting it in Best Picture, but I think this gives it the pretty sure chance that it'll get that 5th slot. I'd love to see maybe a First Cow or White Tiger sneak in. News of the World is also a possibility, but I really think Borat getting that WGA nomination gives it a good shot for that Oscar. Best Original Screenplay, we have Trial at Chicago 7, Promising Young Woman, Sound of Metal, Mank, and Minari. Again, I think these are a pretty solid 5. Sound of Metal might be a little higher than most of you all are putting it, but I really think Sound of Metal, because a lot of the sign language is also written into the script. I think it's a really compelling script, and I think a lot of people are going to be attracted to that. Judas and the Black Messiah could get in. Again, it did come out later than a lot of these films, so that could either help it or hurt it. Palm Springs is a long shot, but I'd still love to see it. And then we have Never, Rarely, Sometimes, Always, which was one of my favorite scripts of last year. But the thing is, it's such a small movie, and it hasn't been getting any buzz in any other categories. Despite it being a critic's favorite for this specific award, I don't see it happening here. Now we get into the acting nominees, and here's the thing. Best Supporting Actor, I think it's a little more straightforward than we thought it was after the Globes and after Jared Leto got nominated, and everyone was like, oh my god, is Jared Leto getting a nomination? I don't think he's getting a nomination. Daniel Kaluuya is the frontrunner for Judas and the Black Messiah. Leslie Odom Jr., Sacha Baron Cohen locked them in as well. Paul Raci, after getting that Critics' Choice nomination, he didn't get SAG, he didn't get Golden Globe, but him getting Critics' Choice gave me a little ounce of hope that Paul Raci could get in. That might be a selfish pick. I don't necessarily know if it will happen, but I'm hoping it happens. I'm thinking it happens. And then here we go at number 5. I have Alan Kim. After that Critics' Choice Award, he gave a really, really, really touching speech, and that could have swayed any last-minute voters to nominate him. Minari is coming in hot. You know, Minari is a newer film to a lot of people, a lot of voters, and it's coming at the perfect time, and I think a lot of people are going to be just enchanted by Alan Kim's performance. I was one of those people who left that movie thinking he was the highlight, and I know a lot of people are saying Yoon Ye-jun and Steven Yeun are the 2, highlights of that movie, but I think Alan Kim is also a highlight, and I could really see him getting that nomination. Of course, you can't count out Chadwick Boseman, but if they did nominate him, it would be a double nominee, and they don't do that a lot. They don't nominate an actor for actor and supporting actor often. Jared Leto, of course, there is that possibility. He got SAG, he got Golden Globes, but, I think after time has gone on, the past few weeks, I think a lot of people are coming around to the idea that that might not have been the best choice to nominate. Nothing against his performance, I just don't love the film, and I think there are stronger performances here. Bill Murray is a real long shot for this award, but, he got the Golden Globe nomination, so he's always in that contention. Best Supporting Actress is one of the hardest categories to predict because, realistically, we have 8 options. We could even have 9 options if you count Dominique Fishback for Judas and the Black Messiah, but the thing is, Dominique hasn't really gotten a ton of other nominations elsewhere, so I'm a little hesitant to predict her. These are the 8 I think could get nominated, but the 5 I settled with were Maria Bakalova, Olivia Colman, Yoo Jung-yoon, Amanda Seyfried, Helena Zengel. And it's going to shock a lot of you that I put Glenn Close on the side, but the thing is, I think when Glenn Close finally gets nominated for an Oscar again, it will be for the award she wins. And I don't think this is going to be the film that gets her Oscar, so I don't see them feeling obliged to nominate her. Jodie Foster just won for The Mauritanian, but the thing is, that is a much smaller voting body, and they might have split some votes elsewhere. I just don't see Jodie Foster getting in here. And then you have Ellen Burstyn, who was a frontrunner early on, but has kind of dipped out of the race just because the movie itself hasn't been getting a lot of traction except for Vanessa Kirby in the lead performance. So I am sticking with these 5. To nominate Helena Zengel and Alan Kim, that's 2 child performances, but in a weird year like this, it makes sense. You also have Maria Bakalova, who is in a comedy, and a lot of people would say, well, comedy performances don't really get nominated, but the thing is, Maria Bakalova is the only actress here to get nominated for SAG, Critics' Choice, Golden Globes, and BAFTAs. That's right, even the BAFTAs, the British Awards, snubbed Olivia Colman. SAG snubbed Amanda Seyfried. There are a lot of people getting snubbed in all these categories. Maria Bakalova, the only one to get nominated for every single other award, meaning the big ones, Critics' Choice, SAG, Golden Globes, and BAFTAs. That is why Maria Bakalova is the top of my list. The other few, I do not know how this is going to go. This is a really wide open category. If Glenn Close gets nominated, I won't be surprised. If she gets snubbed, I won't be surprised. Ellen Burstyn, if she gets in, it would make sense. She'd be the oldest acting nominee ever for an Oscar, and that's a pretty cool thing. If the Academy has that chance, they might go for it. So it is a very, very tricky category. This is probably the second hardest category to predict next to of course, Best Picture. For Best Actor, Chadwick Boseman, Riz Ahmed, Anthony Hopkins are the 3 that I feel most confident in. Gary Oldman has gotten in at SAG, he's gotten in at Golden Globes. I think Gary Oldman will also get in here for Mank. The 5th spot could go to 4 people. It could go to Stephen Yeun for Minari, Tahar Rahim for The Mauritanian, Mads Mikkelsen for Another Round. Another Round had a great showing at the BAFTAs, so Mads Mikkelsen is kind of on the radar, but the one I went for that 5th slot was Delroy Lindo for Da 5 Bloods. Delroy got snubbed in the SAG Awards, snubbed in the Golden Globes, and a lot of people were like, wow, his chances are over. But I think a lot of people who wanted him, who saw him get snubbed at the SAG and Golden Globes, will be fighting extra hard to get him that nomination. So I'm not losing hope yet that Delroy Lindo will get in. If he doesn't make it in, it's a shame because I think his performance is really good. But Chadwick Boseman is my favorite of this category, so as long as he gets nominated, which I think is a done deal, I'll be happy, but it would really, 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 really cool to get Delroy Lindo in there as well. For Best Actress, I think the top 4 are pretty solid. You have Frances McDormand, Carey Mulligan, Vanessa Kirby, and Viola Davis. I think all 4 of them have been nominated for mostly everything. Carey Mulligan and Viola Davis didn't get nominated for the BAFTA, which is a little surprising. The last spot I'm going to give to Andra Day for the U.S. versus Billie Holiday. That Golden Globe win came at the right time. She got a Critics' Choice nomination. I think everything is pointing toward Andra Day for me for that 5th slot. I think Amy Adams, Rosamund Pike, and Zendaya are all on the precipice of breaking through. The thing is, Amy Adams is in a movie that was not critically well received. Zendaya was in a movie that was not critically well received, and Rosamund Pike was in a movie that was well received, but she was the winner for Best Golden Globe Comedy, and a lot of the comedy performances, like I said, don't usually make it in. Even though it is a very dark comedy, I don't see her getting in for a comedy. And lastly, we have the big award of the night, Best Picture. Now, this award can be anywhere from 5 to 10 nominees, so I decided to just list 10 because I'd rather add more to the conversation than leave off names in the conversation. So I predicted the safest 5, Nomadland, Trial of Chicago 7, Minari, Mank, and Promising Young Woman. And then for my next 5, we have One Night in Miami, Ma Rainey's Black Bottom, The Father, Sound of Metal, and Judas and the Black Messiah. The last 2, I'm not that confident in getting in. I think there will be 8 nominees, but Sound of Metal making it in would be really cool. I think it's going to get an editing nomination, which really helps. Riz Ahmed is going to get nominated for that film, so I think it has a little bit of traction, a little bit more traction than people want to give it credit for. Judas and the Black Messiah, I could see slipping in because of those late voters who just got around to seeing it. It's really heavy in the hype, kind of what happened with Minari and Promising Young Woman. They were Sundance films that really built their, case over the course of the past few months and really became true contenders. The ones I left off, sadly, Da 5 Bloods, I just don't see it getting in. Delroy Lindo is really the one chance I see of it actually getting a nomination, and that is even a little slim, and I'm a little unconfident about that, so I'm going to predict it gets snubbed here. News of the World, was a contender for a little while, but I think it's mostly going to be a technical player in this awards race. I don't see it being too big of a Best Picture contender. And then you have Borat Subsequent Movie Film. Again, was not on my radar, but as soon as it got the nomination for PGA, for the Producers Guild, it made me think, you know what? Maybe Borat is going to be this dark horse that we don't see coming. I think it's unlikely that it'll get a Best Picture nominee, but I think this really helps Maria Bakalova's case in Supporting Actress. I think it helps its case in Adapted Screenplay. So, those are my predictions for the Oscar nominations. I talked a lot. My voice is starting to go from talking so much. So thank you for watching. I will have my reaction once the nominees have happened. I will react to the nominees. Whether I'm ranting out of annoyance or happiness, we will find out. But I feel confident in a lot of these predictions. Again, some I'm taking large gambles with. In the end, it's the Academy's choice, and I'm just here predicting it. If you like this channel, please like, subscribe, comment down below. You can check me out on my podcast every Monday, Marvelous Movie Mondays, and every first and third Friday, I have another podcast called The Great American Film Off with Crosby Rosa. This week we are doing DreamWorks films, the best mid-2000s to mid-2010s DreamWorks films, so you can look forward to that at the end of this week. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you're watching the nominations bright and early on Monday, I hope you enjoy a nice, large cup of tea or coffee and have a great time watching those. I'll be watching as well. Until next time, I'll see ya.